As Laura said earlier this week, the blanket reverence that the alphabet organizations have enjoyed over the years is now gone. Between their actions during the Trump presidency, the 2020 election, the Whitmer kidnapping case, and potentially January 6th, the FBI is largely and correctly being seen as out of control. As Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg let slip in a podcast with Joe Rogan, the FBI told Facebook a Russian disinformation drop was coming. And then the Hunter Biden laptop stories started coming.
The FBI, I think, basically came to us, some folks on our team, and was like, hey, just so you know, like, you should be on high alert. We thought that there was a lot of Russian propaganda in the 2016 election. We have it on notice that basically there's about to be some kind of dump of that's similar to that. So just be vigilant. Fewer people saw it than would have otherwise.
The corrupt action of the FBI is one thing, but just as troubling is that all of Biden's policies that have followed seem to reinforce what we learned from the laptop. On China, the president is completely beholden to them. Hunter had contacts for major influencers on China policy. He tagged along when Joe went there and met with Chinese businessmen. And Joe had a 10% equity stake in CEFC, a China CCP-linked China energy company. Now, joining me now is Indiana Congressman Jim Banks, chairman of the Republican Study Committee, and Florida Congressman Mike Waltz. Congressman Banks, I'll start with you. The FBI wasn't just interfering in an election and meddling in partisan politics, but in suppressing the laptop story, are they also endangering our national security?
Without a doubt. Remember, 2 months before the New York Post wrote the story about the Hunter Biden laptop, Nancy Pelosi was calling it Russian disinformation. They didn't want the contents of that laptop to be public information because they know it would have swayed the election away from Joe Biden and Donald Trump would have been reelected. The contents of the laptop tell us that Hunter Biden received somewhere around $31 million from companies tied to the Chinese Communist Party, our biggest adversary. He received a $80,000 diamond from one of these figures. And we know that 10% was being skimmed off the top for the big guy. Rachel, I think I know who the big guy is. Yeah. But why isn't the FBI digging into that? Why aren't they raiding the home of the big guy to expose the link between the Biden family and our biggest adversaries that we face in America today, that being the Chinese Communist Party? I think we know the answer to that question.
Yeah, it's such a great point, Congressman. It wouldn't be hard for them to do a forensic audit and see if the money from Hunter ends up in Joe Biden's bank account or paying for some of his bills. That has not been done. It's such an excellent point. Congressman Waltz, Zuckerberg's company Meta is already trying to walk back his comments and tweeting in part, quote, as we've said, nothing about the Hunter Biden laptop story is new. The FBI shared general warnings about foreign interference, nothing specific about Hunter Biden. Congressman Waltz, will you call Mark Zuckerberg before Congress to answer more questions on this?
We will, Rachel, when we get in the majority. And I think the thing that has so many Americans so upset is just the total lack of accountability for these big tech executives. You've got Jack Dorsey of Twitter who says, yeah, it was a mistake to block the Hunter Biden story months before the election. Completely block it. Ban anybody from sharing it. Oops. Just shrugs his shoulders. And now you've got Zuckerberg, basically saying, yeah, that sucked. It's kind of like, a murder trial where we find out they didn't do it. Oh, well, seriously? Really? But to your point, how is this, really now compromising our national security? And the thing that has me so alarmed is we know the Chinese Communist Party doesn't just give someone $1.5 billion as they gave Hunter Biden to invest in, T-shirt factories. They want investments in artificial intelligence, in nanotechnology, and advanced materials. And so what key technologies did Hunter invest in? We know that right now he is an equity holder in a Chinese nuclear energy company that has been blacklisted for trying to steal American nuclear weapons technology. Did he influence export controls in some way, given his influence with the big guy? Those are the questions we have to, and we absolutely will. And I know Jim Banks is going to be all over this with the Republican Study Committee when we get the majority back in Congress.
Yeah, I mean, these aren't political questions. These are absolutely national security questions that must be answered. Congressman Banks, not only did the FBI, and I just want to say what you said, Congressman Waltz, also at the very beginning of your answer. It is disturbing how casually Mark Zuckerberg talks about interference with our election. I mean, it's astounding. Congressman Banks, you know, they didn't just interfere with the election. They also put people who protested that interference, you know, in prison. You know, American citizens. What are you going to do about that?
Well, from day one, when we get the majority back come January, we have a moral responsibility to investigate the actions, the very political actions of the Biden Department of Justice. So you look at this Hunter Biden laptop censorship issue. It's just like the Russian collusion hoax, which was cooked up in the Obama White House, by the way. It was a combination of Democrat politicians working with Democrat figures in the Department of Justice and the FBI to cook up Russian collusion hoax or to censor the Hunter Biden laptop. If there's ever going to be the right guy in the right place at the right time, it's going to be Jim Jordan chairing the House Judiciary Committee, oversight of the DOJ, who's going to haul these guys in before the committee and force them to testify and hold them accountable.
Excellent point. I hope that happens. Congressman Banks, Congressman Waltz, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.